Welcome to Voices of Empowered Parents, the podcast where families, educators, advocates, and professionals come together to support children and empower the parents who walk beside them every day. I am your host, Dr. Julian Lane, founder of the Empowering Parents Network. Today we're discussing a topic that continues to evolve as research, lived experience, and professional practice to help us understand the many ways children learn, communicate, and experience the world around them. Today, I'm joined by Damaris Sanchez Rivera, a bilingual speech-language pathologist and program director for a nonprofit organization and host of the podcast SLPs in Acción. Damaris is passionate about educating families on language development, early intervention, autism, and the resources that help children and families thrive. Through her work, she helps families better understand communication, embrace their children's unique strengths, and access supports that foster meaningful growth and connection. Today, we're going to explore what neurodiversity means, how our understanding of autism has changed over time, the many ways children communicate, and how families can become empowered advocates for their children. Damaris, welcome to Voices of Empowered Parents.
Thank you, Julie. I'm very excited to be here, very honored for your invitation. And I know that today we're going to have a very good conversation because I know we're both very passionate about helping families and children. So thank you for the invitation. I'm very honored.
Well, thank you very much. So let's just hop right in. How has our understanding of autism changed over the last decade? And what do today's families need to know about the concept of neurodiversity?
I love this question because I think one of the biggest changes is that we're learning to see autistic children as whole children, not just through a list of challenges and not just through what they may struggle with, but we're also looking at their strengths, their preferences, their personalities, and the unique ways they experience the world, because that's the reality. And neurodiversity reminds us that there's not only one right way to think, to learn, to play, or to communicate. Like, for example, one child may show connection by lining up cards next to a parent instead of looking directly to them. Or another child may show excitement by jumping or flapping or repeating a favorite phrase. And those moments can be very, very meaningful. So they can be communication. And that's my area of expertise, communication. And they're not automatically things we need to stop. And at the same time, being like neurodiversity affirming does not mean that we are ignoring or their support needs, right? Because some children need communication, they need maybe help managing like the sensory things. They are maybe a little bit overwhelmed. We need to work with their routines, with how they participate in school and daily life. So for me as a speech language pathologist, it's really about holding like both truths. Like your child is whole, is not broken, and also your child also deserve the support that helps them grow, that helps them to connect, they can feel successful. So the goal here is not to change who the child is. The goal is to understand them better and give them the tools, relationships, and environments that they need to thrive. For me, that's the goal. They're not broken, and they learn in a different way. I say they are wired in a different way. So we as a society, we need to be the ones that support them, and that we need to make changes sometimes to help them. So for me, I think that's the concept right now about autism. I can tell you I have been working in this field for almost 20 years. And every year is something different. Every year we're learning. Every year we're terms are changing, ways that we work with kids are changing, but there's one truth, and that we want them to succeed and we want them to connect, because for me, connection is the key. If we connect with them, I can tell you that we are gonna make progress.
Absolutely. I think that because special education in the US came through as a medical model, it came out of the medical industry where, doctors gave you this diagnosis of bronchitis or strep throat, and it was this automatic label based on an illness that you would eventually, heal from. You would get better. And that labeling is what we first saw in special education. So even with autism, that label of autism as if it defines who you are in that moment in time, and that's it. So looking at the whole child continues to help us move away from that very traditional medical model of diagnosis and giving medication to fix something.
Exactly. It's like, and this is a conversation that I have, I will tell you, like every week. I will tell you that from my caseload, obviously I'm a speech-language pathologist and I see different kinds of cases, but almost 90% of my caseload is kids with autism. And I know that sometimes having these conversations with parents that they don't know, sometimes they think everything is fine with their kids, it's just a speech delay. It can be sometimes a hard conversation at the beginning because, when you have a kid, but you have all these dreams and all these expectations and goals, and sometimes you think that a diagnosis is going to change that. But I always said, don't look at your child in a different way. You need to continue dreaming. You need to continue putting goals. You need to know that nobody can put limits to your child. Never do that, because they can surprise you. They can surprise. I can tell you that I have seen that with a lot of my kids, and I say, wow, I thought that maybe he wasn't able to do this, and they did it. So we need to know that there's a lot of things that we can do to help our children. And there's a lot of ways that we can support them. And we need to empower our parents and families so they feel that they can support their child to be the better version of themselves, right?
Absolutely. I think about I think about our individualized education plans or our AUPs and how they're all based on weaknesses and they're not utilizing the strengths to bring up those weaknesses. And so I understand completely what you're stating. So how can parents embrace this neurodiversity affirming mindset, especially when they first hear a potential diagnosis, while they're still continuing to support their child's growth, development, and those individual goals?
Yeah. I always like to start with a simple reminder, like I was telling you, that your child is not broken. Your child does not need to be fixed. They need to be understood, supported, and celebrated. And it's okay to want your child to learn new skills. And those two things are not opposites. We can honor who a child is and still support growth. And the key is to look at the purpose of the goal. I always said goals are very important. The way that we write those goals are very important. Like you said, are we writing these goals because of their weaknesses, or are we looking at their strengths? Are we helping the child have more access, more choice, more safety, more communication, more confidence? Because that's very important. If yes, that is meaningful growth. For me, that's growth. For example, instead saying, oh, this child needs to sit still and look at the dot, we might say, let's help this child request a break, or choose an activity, or ask for help, or participate using words, or gestures, or pictures, or a device. That in my case, that sometimes that happen that parents, oh, I want my kid to speak. Maybe it's a kid that is nonverbal or not speaking. But look, in the meantime, we can help them with a device, an AAC device, or PECs, or pictures, visual schedules. Those are tools that are going to help your child to communicate, because it's communication. That kind of goal is respecting the child, is building independence, because that's very important. And so I often encourage families to ask, is this goal helping my child? Or it is mostly making my child looking more typical for the comfort of adults. So growth should never mean hiding who you are. Growth should mean having more tools, more choices, and more ways to be part of the world as your authentic self. So there's a lot of ways that we can support our families, our children. And I always say, you need to find what kind of communication is the way that your child can communicate. If it's gestures, we're going to use gestures. Sign language, let's use sign language. Is a device, let's use a device. Is visual pictures, visual schedules, let's do that. Let's find a way, because if we give them a way to communicate, we are going to avoid a lot of behaviors and situations or problems if we start establishing a way of communication. So for me, establishing that way of communication is key. It's very important. And I always say, children, they are gonna show progress. Sometimes that progress can look like a tiny step, but it's progress. And especially when they're little, I say between 2 years, 3 years, those months, kids can learn so much. They are like these sponges that maybe they are not expressing yet, but it's receptive language. They are acquiring all that information. And I always say, don't assume that the kid doesn't know or that the kid doesn't understand. I always think, they know more than I think. And usually it's like that. So always don't limit your child. Don't limit your child. Always think, my child can do this, and I'm going to help him. I'm going to give him the tools. I'm going to find support, resources, because there are resources, but we need to find them. And that's why we're here, because we want to give you those tools, those resources that are there. They're there, but we need to find them, right?
Absolutely. And communication, as you know, is so key to finding out everything about the child, no matter how they want to communicate, because we need to give them the right to choice. And
Yes.
so identifying that line of communication, regardless, verbal, nonverbal, visual, it's it's incredibly important, because until we give that avenue to a child to communicate, to have choice, we really don't know how to take the next steps in best supporting them.
Exactly. And sometimes they have so much to say. As soon as I can tell you, we have several kids with AAC devices, and I can tell you every time it's like, sometimes I'm amazed the things that they can share as soon as you give them a tool. It's like that voice is inside and just need a way, like this vehicle to come out. So we need to find, okay, let's give my kid all these opportunities to find a way so they can communicate. And you're going to see, we're going to avoid a lot of frustration. We're going to avoid a lot of behaviors, because we need to communicate. Imagine that you cannot speak. For example, I use my voice every time. And when I get sick and I cannot speak, it's so horrible. And imagine that you have all these thoughts in your mind that you want to share and you don't have a way to do it. So we need to find that vehicle to help our kids to communicate. It's very important.
Wonderful. So when we talk with families about communication pathways that are beyond the spoken language, and then you've already mentioned visual schedules and AAC devices,
Yeah.
how where should parents come into that conversation? What do they need to understand? And why is it important to recognize and support all forms of communication?
Yeah, and this is something that, like I told you before, I feel very passionate about, because communication is bigger than spoken words. A child might not be using words yet or speech. It may be hard for them, but they're still communicating all the time. So they may reach, maybe they point, they cry, they laugh, they pull you towards something that they want. Maybe they hand you an object. Maybe they repeat a favorite phrase. Those gestalls, those phrases that they hear sometimes maybe in a movie or in a show. Maybe they use facial expressions or sign type, any communication device, but all of that counts. For me, all communication is valid. For example, let's say that your child brings you their shoes and they may be saying, I want to go outside. They are bringing the shoes, but they're telling you, Mom, I want to go outside. Or maybe they walk away from the table and they're saying, hey, I need a break. Or maybe they're repeating this like line for a favorite movie. And maybe that phrase may be helping them to express excitement or comfort or connection. I see that a lot, especially in those children that they are verbal, but they are using a lot of phrases. Maybe it doesn't, you don't hear like something maybe functional, but if you really pay attention, that phrase maybe is meaning something for them. And I don't know, but now there's with AI and all this technology, there's websites that you can put those phrases and then you can find the movie where it says the situation. And sometimes basically you can know what is the meaning of that phrase. So now we have a lot of tools that we can use. So when we notice those moments, we need to respond. I always say you always need to respond to your child, because when we do that, we're telling that our children, I see you, I hear you. So it's what you're communicating matters. So then we can build from there. For example, AAC, like I told you before, augmentative and alternative communication can be a beautiful support. Maybe pictures, maybe signs, a communication board, speech generating devices. There's many devices right now. Now insurance like Medicaid and CMS, a lot of them also cover for these devices. So you need to find a speech-language pathologist that is able to do an evaluation for AAC devices. But I always say, some people say no, but maybe that is hard for my child to use a device. Look, you can be surprised. Kids with technology, they know better than us. I can tell you that. And when you give them that, they are going to try to communicate. It's something that I don't know what happened, but they engage. Usually it works. And you need to find, there's different apps. There are different kinds of devices. Find a speech language pathologist that is really good with AAC, that can guide you, I can help you. Now there's companies that also they provide trials, equipments that you can try for several weeks, and they do it free. This is free. And you can try different devices and then find that device that can help your child to communicate. And sometimes this is something that happened to us. Sometimes parents say, no, but if I give them the device, then they're not going to want to use speech. And usually I can tell you that's not true. And the research says that, and I see that before. I have kids that they were passed from being nonverbal to start imitating the words and the phrases, and now they are basically not using the device. They are using mostly speech. But you don't know if you don't try it. So we need to try it. We need to give them access to communication. And when a child feels that is understood, we often see less frustration, we see more connection, and we see more opportunities for language to grow. So I always said to the parents, don't give up. Don't think that maybe your child is 4 years old, 5 years old, is still not using speech. Try a device. It can be a really good surprise for you. And it's a tool. Don't give up. We always try. We don't quit. We always try. We try the best for our kids.
Great. Thank you. I often preach to future special education teachers that behavior always is telling you something. You have to learn to listen to it. And it can be telling you a good thing. Students who
Yeah.
excel in school, they want to learn more. They're pushing for more information. They're telling you, I really like doing this, versus the child who is frustrated. There's something they don't like. So what is that we need to listen to?
Yeah.
So talk to us about how parents can better understand sensory differences and creative environments that will help keep their children and feeling safe, regulated, and supported.
Yeah. And I think this is very important because we know that one area for kids with autism is the sensory, the regulation. Those differences sometimes can be hard. And we need to create those environments that to keep our children safe. I always said safety is number one. For me, safety is the first thing. I can be working with something, but for me, I need to ensure that my kids are safe, that we are creating spaces that are safe for them. And we need to regulate the kids, because a kid that is not regulated is not gonna learn. It's gonna be very hard for them to learn, I want to say. So sensory differences can be very hard sometimes to understand at first, especially when a child's reaction looks big from the outside. But we need to look closer, look down, because sensory behavior is often the child's body telling us something. Those behaviors are telling us something. A child that is covering their ears maybe they're avoiding certain clothes, or maybe they are running away from a noisy room, or they have a hard time with transitions. That kid is not trying to be difficult. Is that their body is trying to tell you something. Their body is saying this is too much, or I need help. I need to regulate. I need to organize myself. I always said, look, think about when you go to a grocery store. There's a lot of lights, it's bright, carts are loud, a lot of people, there's smells, there's music, you need to wait, there's some things that are unexpected. But for some children, that is a lot of ones. And so those are moments that usually we can see a meltdown. Maybe they are overwhelmed. Maybe it's another child that is like crashing into the couch or jumping over and over and over, because their body, I say they're busy bodies, they need to move. There's some kids that are like seeking that movement, or some of them needs to touch things, or they need to try things, and they put things in their mouth. So their body is telling us something. I always say we need to put like our glasses of detective, and we need to ask the question, what is happening? I tell to my parents, get a journal, a little note, and write when your kid had a meltdown. Write down where you are, what time it is, what's happening, because sometimes you can start looking and seeing some patterns that are going to help you to understand, maybe this is something that he doesn't like, this kind of sound. Maybe he doesn't like this kind of smell. Maybe it's too noisy for him. But we need to pay attention to details. We need to observe. We need to listen to our kids. We need to look at them, because behavior is telling us something. I always encourage the parents to get very curious, like before they get discouraged, because I know sometimes can be very hard. But ask yourself, what's happening right now? Or what happened before this started? What seems to overwhelm my child? Or also, what can help him to recover easily? Sometimes in therapy, it's like sometimes it's just changing or shifting the attention to another toy or another activity. And when you start observing, you start noticing little details, that is going to give you very good information. And sometimes just making little changes can make a big difference. Sometimes, for example, a kid that maybe is the noise that bothers them, maybe using headphones that are noise canceling, that can help them. Maybe let's say that your child is like is clothes, is the tickets or the clothing. Then you know that there's certain textures that he doesn't like. Then you need to know that you need to select better what they're gonna wear. Let's say that you need to go grocery shopping, then have something that they like with them. If they never go to a grocery place if they're hungry, because you're gonna have a tantrum or a meltdown there. So we need to also anticipate. I always said that. You need to prepare. And always, something that for me works is you need to tell your child what is going to happen next. They need to know, and for this, visual schedules helps a lot. You need to tell them what's gonna happen next. Let's say maybe they are in the park, and that usually they had a meltdown when it's time to say bye-bye to the park and we're going home. So maybe you need to put a timer, 5 minutes. We need to start cleaning, or we're gonna go back home. So, or you have a visual schedule and you put the 3 things that are gonna happen. First, we're gonna do this. Second, we're gonna do this, and last, so you need to find what works for your child. Every child is different. But we need to anticipate. We need to get ready. We need to prepare. We need to give them visual schedules, quiet corners, movement breaks. Prepare for those transitions. Usually transitions for them are very hard. So you need to know what are those moments that are more difficult for my child to transition from one activity to the other. So that way we can help them to regulate. We can support them. And we need to create those safety spaces so they can learn, communicate, and connect. So for me, that's very important. They need to be safe, they need to be regulated, and they need to be supported. Yeah.
Great, Damaris, thank you. So, in our 4 minutes or so that we have left, I know we could talk about this for a very long time, but let's kind of highlight the need for parents to be confident advocates for their children, along with um, for a family who's just had a child diagnosed. What would you share with them? So, if we can kind of combine those 2 points together.
Yeah. I think it's very important for the parents to know that they are an important part of a team. Let's say that you have your IEP meeting. For me, families are the most important piece. They are the most important part. And even maybe if you don't have all the information, you can support your child. And it's very important that you find the help that your child needs. Like, go to your school, go to your professional, your specialist, find the information, go to that meeting. You know your child better than anyone. You know what helps them to feel safe. So you know what overwhelms your child. You know what are the things that your child likes or doesn't like. So all that information matters. So I always say you are the best advocate for your child. And advocacy can start very simple. Just sharing like a short video about things that your child likes to do at home. Or you can say, oh, he answers more when he's allowed to move while listening. Or you can say, oh, she participates more when she sees the schedule first. And, parents know their children. I always said you need to talk to your parents, for especially if a specialist is listening right now to us. These parents know their children. So they are very important in this process. And I always said, when we are also putting those goals in place, parents, you need to ask. You need to also, if you know that your child needs help in this, something that I do, especially when I do a speech and language evaluation, I can have my goals. I know the things that I saw, but I always ask to my parents, what is that goal that you have? If I have like a little one and I can make something possible, what is that thing that you would love to see? We need to listen to our parents. And I always say nothing is impossible. We can work for it. When I say, parents, you are the best advocate for your child. You need to know, you need to find information, learn about your children, observe your child. For example, when I have little kids, I always say, sometimes when they need to go to a speech and language evaluation or to the pediatrician and the doctor asks, oh, how many words your child said? Look, have your phone ready. Make a list of all the words that your child says if he's speaking all. And okay, he's saying, I don't know, 50 words. He's saying nouns. He's using verbs. He's using adjectives. That's going to help you to have an idea of what kind of words is your child using. Is he only using single words, or is he using like phrases? Right. I always say that's a better, it's good for you to put it in writing. Always have a file with all the information of your child. Be ready, be prepared. When you go to that meeting, go with all your information because you are very important. So the best things, listen to families and work with them. And when parents and professionals are truly working together, the child is the one who benefit most. So I always said, be the best advocate for your child. You know your child, and make your team listen to you and listen to your child and work together. Because when we work as a team, all miracles happen. I always believe that we need to work as a team. Parents, specialists, teachers, families, therapists, all together for the benefit of our children.
Damaris, thank you. In just a few words, can you provide some insight to parents who are facing this as a newly diagnosed child? It's just they're standing at the threshold of what's yet next to come.
The first thing that I'm going to tell you is if I have a parent in front of me, I tell them, take a breath, take a pause, be gentle with yourself. You're not guilty, because sometimes, and that's something that I see a lot, parents feel sometimes guilty. Maybe I didn't do something. Maybe something that is in my genes, in my family, my genetics. There's a lot of thoughts that come to your mind, and it's normal to feel many things at once. But you may feel love, worry, relief, confusion, hope, or uncertainty, all that, because we're humans. And you don't have to figure everything out today. Because that happened to me like 2 weeks ago. A parent that received the diagnosis the day before seeing me. And I know it's not easy because like I told you before, sometimes we have these expectations and their dreams and these goals. But your child is still the same beautiful child they were before the diagnosis. The diagnosis does not change their worth. What if can do is help open the door to understanding, support, and community? Because I always say you need to start small. Don't pretend to know everything right now. But I always said you need to connect with your child. Everything starts with connection. Notice what brings joy to your child. What makes your child happy? What is that thing that may be like up your child? What is that song that your child really like? What is that toy that they spin that they like to play with? Or what is that book that they want you to read the same book every night? Or sometimes just sit, quietly beside them while they'll play. All those moments count. Those are relationships. Those are the moments of connection, and that's communication. And you need to learn how your child communicate. That's one thing that I'm going to tell you. Notice what helps them to feel safe and regulated. And also like connect with them. For me, that's celebrate every moment, every victory, every little thing that they learn for the first time. Your child doesn't need to become someone else to thrive. You don't have to change them. But with love, understanding, the right support, the right tools, they can grow in a way that is meaningful, authentic, and beautiful. Because there's no two that kids are the same. And I always said to my parents, autism is a spectrum. You can have this kid that maybe only need a little bit of support. Maybe you have the other extreme that maybe need a lot of support because there's also some medical, conditions or other things that they need. But doesn't matter if you're in this side, on this side, level 1, level 2, level 3, you have a beautiful child and that child needs you. You are the most important person in the world. And just be there for them. And know that you're not alone, that we have beautiful resources, beautiful specialists, people that are here to support you, and that diagnosis, it doesn't like put like, oh, my kid is not gonna do this or do that. I can tell you, I have a kid that I started with him when he was 2 years old. And last year, mom sent me pictures. He graduating, entering to college, already working as a volunteer in a nonprofit. And I was feeling so proud to see the long way that this boy has been walking. And I was remembering those first moments when I was working with that mom, that she was like thinking, oh no, my child is not going to be able to do this or that. But now seeing all the things that he's achieved right now, this is not a sentence. This is not, my kid is not going to be, no, never put limits to your child. Just give them the support that they need and be with them, because there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and your child is unique, but it's beautiful. Just love your child. Learn everything that you can about autism, all the support that you can find. Try everything that you can, but just be there with them. Just be there and be open to learn, because like Julie, like me, there's many specialists that are here to help you in the process, and you're not alone. That's what I will say to my parents. Any parent that is listening today, just be gentle to yourself. Breathe and know that your child is still the same beautiful child that you saw the first day that it came to the world.
Damaris, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today and for sharing your knowledge, compassion, and commitment to supporting children and families. One of the most important messages from today's conversation is that every child deserves to be understood, valued, and supported for who they are. And as our understanding of autism and neurodiversity continues to evolve, families have more opportunities than ever to focus on strengths, foster meaningful communication, and create environments where children can thrive. For our parents who are listening today, we hope this conversation reminds you that your child's journey is uniquely their own. Progress may look different from family to family, but connection, understanding, and advocacy remain powerful tools along the way. And here at the Empowering Parents Network, we believe that informed and supported parents become empowered advocates for their children. By learning, asking questions, and building strong partnerships, families can create opportunities that allow every child to reach their fullest potential. Thank you again, Damaris, for being here. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Voices of Empowered Parents. If you're listening today and if you find this conversation helpful, please share it with another parent, educator, or professional who may benefit from these insights. So until next time, this is Dr. Julie M. Lane. Keep learning, keep advocating, and keep empowering the children and families in your community.